Could it also be that maybe we shouldn't just be satisfied with what other people give us and we should ask for what we actually need?
Whoa, wait.
So, like, yeah.
Boom.
It's about communication.
Flipping the script is about communication.
Okay.
And that's really what If You Give Us a Cookie is all about, folks. If you're just tuning in, welcome. This is A Little Too Quiet, a Ferndale Library podcast brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Area District Library. Yay!
That was great.
Yeah, I'm Erin.
I'm Julia.
And we're joined today by Cricket.
Hello. Love to see it.
We do love to see it. And
Sam.
We love to see it. Thanks
We
for
love to
joining
see
us.
it, Sam. We love to see it, Cricket.
Love to see it.
You know what we don't love to see, though?
Bad boundaries in children's books?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, and
Yes, and
all of these books that we brought to the table today.
yeah.
You guys are so well prepared.
I wrote 5 pages of notes because apparently I'm just filled with rage.
I want to hear it.
Honestly, I wrote some notes about books that I hate about 5 minutes before this because I realized Julia had written pages and pages and I didn't want to be the unprepared one. So don't feel like sabotage, Sam. This was a last minute thing on my part
I
too.
need a notes app note on it, but I've got the titles.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's all that
Just have
counts.
a good memory.
Yeah.
Which
Also, Sabotage Sam sounds like a really great name that you should start using. That is what Erin said.
it's our spin-off podcast.
Yeah.
Sabotage Sam.
Well, that sounds like a command. Sabotage her.
Or
I'm
is
not
Sam
sure.
doing the sabotaging?
Okay, wait. Back to what we're here for today. We are not here to sabotage Sam. I'm so sorry.
No, we're here to talk about books that we hate that everyone else for some reason seem to like. I thought we could start if we could just all go around and like say one of our top like hot take I hate this books.
With
So-
no reasoning.
No reasoning.
I only want a title right now.
Oh.
Okay.
Will I get to explain
Yeah.
myself later?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
If you want. Or you could just
Okay.
Or
drop
sometimes it could just be self-explanatory. Like I hate Twilight books.
Is that yours?
That's gonna be my opening
That's your
statement.
opening
Whoa.
statement. Okay.
it. Whoa. I've never read Twilight, but for some
I
reason
was
that
too much
felt
of
like
a snob. I did not
that
read
felt
it.
like
You're gonna see a lot of venom. This
real
is gonna
hot
be not sweet happy Aaron. This is gonna be sharp
fired
and
up.
mean Aaron today.
A new side of Erin.
A dark side of Aaron, really
loved
seen.
it.
Yeah. Love to see it.
Yep.
50 Shades
Sorry,
of
that's like stuck in my head now. I hate The Alchemist by Paulo
That's
Coelho.
on my list. Oh my god, I can't wait to rip into this book.
All right, Sam, what's a book that you hate?
Normal People by Sally Rooney.
Oh no! If only I had a buzzer. Beep beep. Mine is It by Stephen King.
Good choice.
I have a whole page on that.
Okay, so I
Love
want
to
to
hear it.
set some ground rules before we go into this. First, in saying, there's going to be disagreement in this table with our listeners, and that is okay, because everyone's got different tastes, and so we just want to acknowledge that everyone's got different tastes, and it's okay that we all have different tastes in books. And if you like it and it's the best book ever for you, fine. Just know that I may absolutely hate it, and I'm gonna rip it apart.
But we will still help you find it if you come in.
But
and
we
you're
will
looking
still
for
help
it.
people find it on the shelf,
Yeah.
because that's our job.
Copies of The Alchemist.
Yeah.
That's also like one of the top 10 lost books in our collection.
That's really
Yeah,
We go through copies of The Alchemist like toilet paper around here.
I can't tell you how many times I've had to
Maybe
rebuy
people
the
are
Twilight
like,
books
"Guys,
and it's killed me
I just
inside.
really need to
but
keep that book. Maybe it really does just resonate with people.
Or maybe they are using it as toilet paper because it's so dumb.
okay, I think we just need to go right into it. Cricket, please tell us what about this book. Give us your notes on.
Okay, so number one, I was on vacation with my in-laws, and one of my father-in-law's friends like mansplained at me about this book and how it was going to change my life.
This is that kind of book.
And was like, I can't believe you've never read The Alchemist. Like, what have you been doing with your
How
life?
dare someone mansplain to a librarian about a book?
We got off to a bad relationship that way. I wasn't actually a librarian yet. I was merely a aspiring librarian, but I did feel that was like setting me up for failure with this book. So here are some things that made me mad. Number one, why did they like? He says that his name is Santiago in the first sentence, but then like spends the rest of the book referring to him as the boy, which I found like so pretentious. It's like I gave him a name, but he doesn't actually need a name because he's not a boy. He's the boy.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Italicized the whole time
And then-
in your head.
And then he says stuff like this. Mostly just the hearts of those who are trying to reach their personal legends. But they do help children, drunkards, and the elderly too.
What?
Exactly.
Those personal legends, let me tell you.
Yes. And also, like, I got mad because there was, like, kind of a cool female character named Fatima, but instead of, like, grabbing a horse and going along on the adventure with Santiago, she just, like, stays home and waits for him.
See, I wrote a whole thing about this because the whole thing in this book is personal legends, okay? It's like this whole journey you're going on to improve yourself. So Santiago's fiance, Fatima, is in his personal legend, but she doesn't get to have her own.
Exactly.
But you know what does? Minerals. literal minerals. Like, they mention lead and copper having personal legends to evolve to gold, but Fatima has to stay home and wait for Santiago to come back. And I
Fatima is ranked below minerals.
yeah, in this book, it's the boy, minerals, Fatima, in order of importance.
Yeah, and, like, the horse also,
yeah.
above Fatima.
Yeah.
It was silly. And also, like, I feel like he could have also just said, like, here's my book. It's one sentence long. Sometimes you can find happiness close to home. The end. Instead of, like, making us go through all this silly stuff.
It's the journey, Cricket.
I don't like it.
Maybe
It's a journey, but Cricket doesn't want a plane ticket for
the
it.
first
You're
word
not
I
allowed to
wrote
go.
was literally just cringe. It is like, it is self-help fiction in the worst way possible. And I'm so glad that we are just here to rip it apart.
Yes.
I-
If you loved this book, like my father-in-law's friend, well, I would gladly mansplain it back at you sometime. I work here at the library. Come find me.
Yeah.
We can have a conversation.
Yeah. Yep. Well, on that note,
I should note that going into this podcast, Julia was slightly concerned that she was going to be so mean that someone would try to track her down.
I was like, if someone could call in, they would. They would, because this list I have here.
And I told her she should just live behind the safety that is the microphone and let out all of her true feelings.
Well, the most interesting part, gentle listener, is that the three people I'm currently sharing a table with are like three of the nicest people you will ever
Very
meet.
nice like,
So, if you do feel feelings about this, that's fine. Like, feel your feelings, but know that,
We're babies, so.
We're gentle-hearted inside, and we have...
if you come
We're
in
sensitive.
and you're like, everything that you said about the alchemist is the stupidest thing I heard, I will cry.
yeah. So if you come in to prove us wrong, bring Kleenex.
Literally bring a box of tissues.
Or just bring a copy of The Alchemist, which we can rip apart and use as tissues.
think of the paper cuts.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Sam, tell us about your book.
I am dying to know.
It was very hyped up to me by my friend group. We all have like a book club together and they had all read it already and they're like, you have to read this. And I was like, okay. And the characters are so annoying. I think, especially the boy. I can't remember his name. See, the boy.
Connor.
Thank you.
Yeah, me.
He's like, don't tell anyone, okay? You can come over every day, but don't tell anyone. And then she's like, okay. And then they go to college, and it's the same thing forever. And I just did not like it. It made me angry.
Fair enough.
That's
I
very
have a
fair.
book on here just like that, and it's My Year of Rest and
I hate that
Relaxation.
book.
I loved that book.
Oh,
Give Cricket the buzzer.
oh,
Okay.
interesting.
Because
We do have the buzzer of disagreement here. That anyone may press to interject that they
I'm
like
so
like
glad
to.
you
go
said it.
first. Let me go.
I had
Yes.
buried that
Okay.
one.
We're gonna do this as point counterpoint. So first we're gonna go over to Julia for the point, and then we'll hear from Cricket for the counterpoint.
I get it. Okay.
Yep.
I get it. I read the book. I see things. I understand.
Wait, are you
At
talking
the
about
same time.
Normal
year of
people
rest and
or-
relaxation or normal
We can switch
people?
to Year of Rest and Relaxation because I did not like that one either.
Thank you.
I love
And that's
both
what
of
I
those.
thought you were gonna say at first, because I understand it's a cult classic. It's a book talk book, not to be
Yeah.
confused with book talk.
The very popular Instagram reel show.
Book talk, like TikTok with books. The people love it, and I think I read it a few years ago, and I was like, wait a second. I can't finish this. The characters are too terrible. And I get that's the point. I get it. And I literally wrote here, written too well, which made it insufferable. Insufferable.
How dare that book be well
I
written?
do love when, wait, you can edit this out if you need to, but I do love when she takes it in the art gallery. But I don't love everything else.
Julia, are you a supporter of the arts?
Yes, and the shit was in its own way also art. So please, let's leave it at that.
No.
But okay, the characters are just like I love to hate characters, but I just like couldn't. I couldn't do it with this one.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm laying around and I'm terrible in New York City or whatever.
It's just too much of the privilege that was just like hard to sit through.
Maybe it's like being a chronically ill person reading this like she's just annoying and whiny.
Okay, now
Go
over
on
to
to Cricket.
counterpoint.
Ready.
Can
Cricket.
you buzz
Well,
that again?
no, I just looked up my review of Normal People by Sally Rooney. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, and
Whoa.
all I wrote was, I like the way Sally Rooney says things. So it is,
Yeah.
I do too.
it's, it's possible. Yeah, I do think the characters are like flawed for sure, but they were flawed in a way that I related to. Like the weird high school relationships rang very
Yeah.
true to me. So, I also really liked the Hulu show, and I had actually seen that before I read the book. So I was like envisioning
That-
kind of that in the background while I read, which may have affected
I
my
haven't watched the
perception.
show. Maybe I should.
Going to My Year of Rest and Relaxation, that book is hilarious. The fact that she's so awful is the whole point. I laughed so hard reading that book. She's terrible. She has that friend that she hates, but that keeps coming over and she just hates her.
Yeah.
Wasn't that funny? That was so funny.
It's funny in like a Mean Girls kind of way.
Yeah.
Like Mean Girls the movie specifically, not Mean Girls in general.
Well,
Yeah.
both ring true in this case.
Yeah, I guess I didn't actually write any. Oh, wait. I have never read anything like this before. It was dark and delightful. So that was my review. I guess I only gave it 4
Whoa.
stars.
Dark and delightful.
But yeah, my friend Daniel wrote, it's a type of book. And if you're into that type, you'll love it. If not, you won't.
People love it. It was recommended to me, so I read it and I was like,
Yeah, I accidentally got into an argument with someone in the Instagram DMs about this book, and then I had to block them. And it's someone I know in real life. So
Oh no.
hopefully they don't listen to this podcast.
Wow, that really escalated that.
Or you get the final word here. Because they can't
Yeah.
call in.
So did they think it was funny? Maybe we thought it was
It's like quite literally their favorite book ever. But
Okay,
not in a way
so-
like it's funny, but they were like, so true. And I was like, whoa. hot
yeah,
take.
okay, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, I also
Yeah, that's-
I know people who've liked Twilight, and one person that I knew. Hold
Did you
on.
block them?
The person that I knew was like very seriously like, this is gonna be the book of our generation, guys.
It kind of is.
This is gonna be the thing. Like, let me get this leather bound with the
Yes.
silk ribbon bookmark. Like,
Where else are you
I'm
gonna
like,
get lines like,
this can't be the standard in which we set society to.
Bella, where have you been, Loca?
No. We need better representation in relationships. And so
So I also like Twilight.
Did you not say you haven't read it? But you just
Literally
directly
never
quoted
read it. Because it is of our generation.
It's on the internet.
I literally probably have like 100 Twilight quotes floating
They're
around in
just
my
in
brain
here.
every day.
Yeah, I agree with all the arguments against it. I don't need to know when this person eats a granola bar. It's not a healthy relationship. The name Renesmee is awful.
I could go
I
on
agree with
about
all that.
how much I hate that name.
But I was a teen librarian starting in 2007, and that was right when those books came
Wow.
out. And just, this is going to be a little cheesy, but seeing how enthusiastic they got teenagers who had formerly never touched a book about reading, and how we could do the bait and switch, like, oh, you're here for Twilight. Guess what? There are other books you might like. It just made it hard for me to hate it. And also because so many of the teens who came to my like teen advisory board and stuff were into it and wanted to do things like throw a Breaking Dawn release party. Yeah, I wouldn't say that I love Twilight, but I've definitely read all 4 books, and I don't find them super objectionable.
It's just the writing is so bad, Cricket, and the naming is so unoriginal, and the characters are all stereotypical, and they're also really toxic relationships.
But what if that's the point? I don't think it is.
It's not the point, which is
What
the
if we
sad
looked
thing.
at Twilight through a lens?
Whoa, you're trying to give a mouse a cookie to me. No.
It got a lot of people thinking really critically about toxic relationships, though.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
The backlash.
But
was
here's the
fierce.
thing, though. You're talking about like the impact the book had versus the actual book itself, which was terrible.
I accept that criticism.
Because did it have great impacts on getting teenagers enthusiastic about reading? Absolutely. I was one of those teenagers who had friends who didn't read, and then suddenly they wanted to read books with me, and that was great. But also the book itself and the book series itself is terrible.
Iconic. It's
Truly.
camp.
But not intentionally.
Someone put that on a shirt, please. And the back says, Bella, where have you been, Luke?
I think Julia should just open up a shirt making company.
I think you should.
Julia's hot takes.
Yeah, it's all quotes from books I've never read.
Just out of context. I know another popular series that I hate.
Yes.
I'm listening.
The Diary of the Wimpy Kid books.
Oh, I am with you on that one.
What about Roderick Rules?
No, you mean Ratchet doesn't rule.
I've also never read any of those books.
I can tell by the way you said it.
I don't.
Oh my goodness.
I only know that there are just an infinite amount of the Wimpy Kid books because of
just-
checking them in and out all day.
They keep coming out with more.
They're all the color. They're all different color.
I hate the main kid.
Colorful.
I think
Yeah,
like it's
I
not
agree.
like there's not necessarily the best role model building here. And also, I appreciate the use of illustration in books, especially for readers who are, struggling to getting into reading, or those who just like illustrations, because art is great and can definitely enhance a book. I hate the illustration style for these books. Yeah. And I just think that they're stupid, and I can't believe they just keep churning them out.
I agree with all that. Again, got a lot of kids into reading who...
the impact of the book is great. But the book itself in the series
I read the first one in the series because I have nephews, and I was, trying to be a cool auntie.
Yep.
And I was like, I guess I'm not a cool auntie, because if I ever talk to you about these books, I'm going to take them away and throw them in the trash.
My mom wanted to get one for my cousin once for his birthday. And I was like, Mom, why would you do that to my cousin? I thought you loved him.
Oh my god. What?
So
some pretty strong opinions being voiced.
We got him a cookbook instead, and it was much better.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid cookbook.
Is it Allison Roman? Barefoot Contessa?
Yeah, it was like a junior cookbook or whatever from some.
It was the idea of showing up at a 7-year-old's birthday party with Barefoot Contessa.
I like the idea that you have
teach
in
him
one
young.
hand Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and in the other hand an adult cookbook, and you're like, I guess let's get the cookbook. Too often.
There's a lot of wisdom one can learn from the Barefoot Contessa.
That's true.
I try to teach him young about how a slow pace of life out in the Hamptons is where it's
Oh my
at.
god. That is what they're aspiring to now.
That's what I should aspire
Set the
to.
standard.
Really now.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid could never.
Diary of a Barefoot Contessa.
Whoa.
Whoa. Spin-off series.
I would read that.
All the stick figures of Jeffrey.
It'd be a really slow-paced novel, but it would just be the most chill, good beach read ever. It would be a beach read book for me. Yeah. Not hated. Cricket is now fanning herself. She's got to cool down after this heated conversation.
Lately, whenever I enter this room, I become hysterical. Jeff can confirm.
All right, Julia, you have so many on that notebook of yours.
I can
What's
see
the
what
note?
she wrote on the top
Wait
of that one,
a
and I want to hear it.
Yeah.
I agree with it, but
I wrote 2 pages about why I hate Harry Potter. Let me preface this by saying...
go ahead.
Well, wait, I got a lot of things to say,
I
actually.
almost interrupted her.
Please do at any
wait.
point. I literally just said the title, and you're like, okay, but actually...
Did the Sam need the buzzer?
No. I agree with whatever you're
We,
going.
yeah, we need, an affirmative buzzer.
Ding ding.
Second
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
There you go.
Like an air horn.
Let me start by saying, as a personal preference, I hate fantasy books. I hate books with magic. I know. I'm sorry. It stresses me out. I know. Okay. But in this case, one for every person at this table
We should get one
except
for
me.
everyone.
But in this case, I also feel this is a great conversation of, can we really separate the art from the artist? Because, Rowling is very problematic, and in a way that she's really doubled down on it. So, don't want to bring this down to a very depressing level.
I think that might be a different podcast episode.
Yeah,
Is-
and as far as the book goes, there's so many better options. I would love to recommend them to you. I think there's just so many issues in here. There's lack of diversity, fat phobia, a focus on a gender binary that's very weird, and I don't love it. So, Please. I personally don't like magic books, but I will find you some. There's so many good ones.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we still have people coming in asking for it for like nostalgia purposes, because a lot of people did grow up reading them, and I get that. But also a lot of people grew up reading Little House on the Prairie, and that book is also riddled with issues. So perhaps we find something better.
Going over to Sam, what is your, do you have additional notes on Harry Potter?
No, I almost mentioned it when you were talking about Twilight. I was like, well, I was definitely a person who went to like Harry Potter releases, the books and the movies, all of them, because I did love it as a child, but I understand the criticism, and I don't really affiliate myself with it at all anymore. So, but I loved it. Like
you went through a phase.
Oh yeah, like my 4th grade teacher read it to us, and then I was like hooked. And I bought them all and was sitting on the floor and like reading the whole thing in 10 hours. Like I was nuts, but.
I remember as a kid, every time a new book would come out, the whole bus to school would just be filled with kids reading these books.
Yeah,
it was intense.
It was. But I don't know what, it was special when I was, like in middle school.
Yeah, I also grew up with the books. They were for a while, they were coming out at the same rate I was aging, which was like exciting for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it could partially be nostalgia, but yeah, I do think that the separating the art from the artist is like a whole another podcast that like I could talk endlessly about.
That's like the biggest example.
And I think, if your kids are into Harry Potter, I think it's important to have conversations with them about this stuff. I think it's like a way to open up the opportunity to have conversations with them about this stuff. But yeah.
That's all.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
If you want to read it, maybe have a conversation about.
Will not read it and will not like recommend maybe. I don't know, but it was special to me as a child, so I was like, I want to hear all the stuff because I have a lot.
I think it's extra hard when it's something that like as a child you're like, oh, this is the best, and like it's really special and then later on in life you're like,
man,
oh no, why did she have to, or like also like, oh, this writing just isn't. This is problematic now. Now that I'm older, I can see it's problematic.
And I think maybe that's a podcast. It's like, when your favorite is actually problematic.
Yeah, there used to be a Tumblr called All Your Faves Are Problematic.
Yeah.
That was, it's, it's a decision everybody has to make for themselves because, John Lennon beat his wife. Yeah. David Bowie was a predator. I love their music. It's, you have to make your own decisions and be aware of stuff. But at some point you can't, there's no ethical consumption of anything anymore. So, because really like we're all garbage. Like even
you have to draw the line somewhere between
gazing at this table
between a person and
gentle, kind, sweet librarians. We're all trash. So yeah.
We can't be as pure as our cats' hearts.
Yeah, it's true. Can I talk about Out of the Dust by Karen Hess?
Sure. Yes. Please do.
I've not read it.
So I grew up the daughter of a children's librarian. And so my mom was always bringing home from the school media center where she worked what I called medal books. So they would be the books with the Newbery Medal. And so one day she brought home Out of the Dust, which had a giant medal on it. And I was like, this book is so good. You should read this book. And I guess I didn't have any other books because usually she would bring those home and I would ignore them. And then she would take them back because they were overdue. But for some reason I read this book. It was the first book I read that was written in verse, which I was interested in. I was like, oh, it's like a novel, but it's like poems. And then I decided I hated novels in verse because I didn't understand why it was written in verse. I didn't think it added anything to the book. And then also there's the story. So Out of the Dust is about the Dust Bowl, which Jeff can already confirm that I don't like dust. I don't like a lot of Westerns because they're too dusty. So the Dust Bowl probably isn't a thing that I was going to be into anyway. But while they're living in Oklahoma and all their crops are dying and dust is blowing everywhere, this young woman whose name is, I think, Billy Joe, Her only joy in life is to play the piano. That's the only thing that brings her happiness because everything else is garbage.
Sounds very sad.
Yeah, there's no food. Everything's covered in dust. No money. Her mom's pregnant. So again, her one joy, playing the piano. And then one day when her mother is pregnant, she accidentally sets her mom on fire and kills her and her younger sibling, and also burns her hands trying to put out the fire so she can no longer play the piano.
Holy cow, Cricket, this goes from dark to darker.
Right? And I was furious with my mother. She's just like, why would you give me this book?
The metal.
She was like, well, it's about, she endures hardships. And I was like,
Them.
yeah. And so I never read another metal book again until grad school when I had to for an assignment.
To be fair, and we could have a whole conversation about it, I also have some strong feelings about a lot of books that end up on metal lists and stuff. Like,
especially medals for kids, because the kids would never give those books medals. It's just adults.
Yeah, it's adults thinking what is art, essentially, versus what is actually like a book that all the kids are like, yes, best book ever. I don't know. Maybe different audiences there sometimes.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid would have a medal.
I was gonna say it's Diary of a Wimpy
Yeah. Yeah. See, it's either that or like Dogman or Captain Underpants. Like one of those would have a medal.
Oh,
Pete the Cat.
Kid. I'm like, hey,
I do like Pete the Cat's vibe.
cute, yeah.
Yeah.
Pete the Cat a medal.
Give Pete a medal. He would share it with his friends and bake them all cupcakes so that they have a groovy time with their band.
That's so true.
Yeah, so I see we have no out of the dust apologists here.
No.
I actually had not heard
I
of
haven't
that
read
book,
it, but I
so...
think I will not.
Good going.
Yeah, that sounds real sad. I have to say though, like going into like dark books and stuff like that, because that kind of was dark. Stephen King books.
Oh, yeah.
Not just it, though it is included in that list. The movies and shows are pretty good. The books, I can't. I have talked to people who love these books. I understand their point of view of like sometimes you're like, it's like, oh, it's building a really good scene. And like, yeah, but it's just so wordy about it.
Yes.
Like, leave something to my imagination. I can fill in the details with my imagination of what this room looks like or like what this sound is. There's just so many words. Like, gosh, Steven, are you just being paid by the word here? Because this is just so wordy. And I can't get through it. It ruins the tension. It ruins the spooky horrorness when you have nothing left to the imagination. Because anything in my imagination is going to be scarier than anything written down right in front of me in plain day. Like, they're not scary because it's over-explained and over-described. And I can't read Stephen King books. They're just too wordy.
I've actually never read one, but I turned around just now because the Stephen King books are shelved right behind
They're
us.
literally looking
And
at us.
I have like
off the
an
shelves.
arbitrary dislike of him because I feel like he hogs shelf space because all of his books are so fat. And he's
They're all
written
door stoppers.
so many.
To get ready for this, I was reading like hundreds of reviews of books on Goodreads because I was like, what do the people say? And someone said, I would love to keep the book at arm's length, but it's so hard to hold such a heavy book with an extended arm. And I was like, yes, that. And I actually did some fact checking, so I was like, wait, this can't be true. The main characters in the book, it takes 350 pages of the book for all of them to have met the monster and acknowledged its existence because there's so much text about the architecture.
Exactly my point.
Like, I don't really know. It is unnecessarily lengthy. I think, maybe just to take up space. I have nothing else.
No, yeah. Great example with the architecture. It's good to know what the buildings look like, sure. Could we summarize it maybe in like a sentence or two? Like, hey, it's a historic little town. Whatever. Like, We don't need to go into so many descriptions of every single building
And
on
the
Main
clothing.
Street. And the clothing and everyone's vibe and what Mrs. So-and-so had for lunch that day. Like,
I want Erin to abridge audiobooks of like an all class. Just like I'll just hear her say, "It was a historic little town," and all of a sudden you've like saved like 4 hours.
Yeah, you literally would. And I love that so much of it is like unnecessary details, and then Beverly, the one girl character, is so underdeveloped.
Yes.
But we know everything about this town. Yeah. Stephen King has a thing, and not when the main character is femme, but when there's a femme presenting character in an ensemble, they have literally no personality. But you will know what they look like because he will tell you on every page what they look like.
but their personality is, quote, unquote, girl.
Beverly is described as being like so pretty on every single page that she comes up on. And I'm like, sir, please.
That's her personality.
She's so pretty. Like, it is just a thing in like so many of his books that I'm like, you can just say if you don't know how to write a female character. It's okay.
Steven, your secret is safe with Julia.
Yeah.
Except for now it's not. It's all out on the podcast airwaves. Steven's gonna hunt you down now.
Oh my god.
He's busy.
There's gonna be a 10-page essay sent to you with complaining about it, but it's not gonna say anything.
Okay, Erin will summarize it for
I
you.
really hope that he describes the building that he's in, because if not, how will I know what's happening in the story?
I'll just read the 10-page essay from Steven and it'll be like, Julia, you hurt my feelings.
That's
That's a summary. And then Erin will be like, and he was in a little historic town.
what was he wearing?
Yeah, girl.
And
Was he
so
pretty?
Pretty.
Steven, you're so pretty.
Oh my gosh. No.
Sam, what else did you hate?
I thought I had them all in my brain.
I put her on the spot.
I'm trying to think of like classics that I hated in high school when I thought I knew what cool things were, like Harry Potter. I'm joking. I think I hated The Great Gatsby.
Yes.
Oh, wait, can I have that buzzer, please? You have to look at it through the lens that he's in love with him, please.
No, they're all symbols, okay? I know.
What about the billboard with the eyes?
It was an AP Lit, and all we did.
What about the green light at the end of the dock?
What about Daisy crying about the shirts?
She'd never seen such beautiful shirts.
Oh my gosh.
But I will say,
Wait, let Sam have a turn.
Running away.
Sam,
buzz it.
defend your position, please.
Sam's taking over.
All right, listen up.
Yeah.
I am listening.
Yeah, you two, listen up. I also didn't like this book, so I'm on Team Sam here. I thought
16,
The
I
Great
was like,
Gatsby was kind of like, it's a little bit pretentious.
Yeah.
And I think the overall plot, when you look at it on a surface level, is pretty gosh darn sad.
I think maybe I should read it again. I am not 16 anymore.
Put on those lenses
I
of
mean, come
romance.
on. So, fun fact: F. Scott Fitzgerald, also trash.
That's honestly so true.
I read it in high school and was like, I just like impressed myself so much by like getting all the metaphors. So I think I was just like,
kid too.
yes, I was just kind of like, obsessed with how cool I felt while I was reading this book.
Yeah.
You're like getting good grades on the papers.
Yeah. You know, so annoying. And yeah, I'm rereading a bunch of Fitzgerald as an adult. It's a
different experience.
A lot of it's pretty awful, but I don't know. I think the jazz age is interesting. I think all the expats who went over and like lived in Paris. And as Jeff may or may not know, I love, like, one of my hobbies is actually hating Ernest Hemingway. I hate him so much that it turned to the corner to like obsession. I went to down to Florida and visited his like home.
You're like, I hate this guy.
Like, I hate this guy. I have to see his house.
I love to read like books that are critical of him. I love to think about how much I hate him. It's not like when you hate something you don't even want to think about it. I just like sometimes just sit.
You revel in your hate.
Revel in hating Ernest Hemingway. And so like because he and F. Scott Fitzgerald like didn't get along famously, I feel like I have to love F. Scott Fitzgerald because we're both on team F. Ernest.
I love learning this about you.
Yeah, you're learning way too much about me during this podcast.
A book that I hate, and I will give no reason because I think it's self-explanatory. Catcher in the Rye. And that's all. Anyone gonna buzz in on that because no.
Whoa! Cricket.
I loved that book until I read the memoir of a woman who J.D. Salinger like totally groomed.
Oh no.
So I was just buzzing in to say, fun fact, J.D. Salinger, also trash.
Noted.
There's a lot of like quote unquote classics that I just don't care for.
I also read Memoirs of a Geisha, didn't like that. I'm trying to think of all the books I had to read.
I liked the movie version adaptation of that, I liked Pride and Prejudice, but there's a lot of like Austen books and stuff that they're just not for my cup of tea. I don't like the historic.
Smoozy.
Yeah. I like that Jane Austen names all the best characters Jane. Because if I was going to write a bunch of books, you know I'm doing that. I'm like, Julia was so cool and
Julia's
so pretty. And that's all we need to know about her.
Whole character built. Done. Yeah. Check.
Now, what building does she live in?
No, I'm in charge of writing the building descriptions.
Okay.
It was old and big. There you
go. Has anyone read Out of Africa by someone who used the pen name Isaac Dinison, but whose name was actually Karen Blixen?
What?
No,
I have not.
Please elaborate on this book.
So this is a famous biography, and it was turned into a famous movie that had like Robert Redford in it. And so she was like I kept hearing that she was such an interesting lady because she lived in Africa and she like flew planes. And Paula McLean wrote like a novelization about one of her friends where she was like doing cool female pilot stuff and having adventures. So I thought it was going to be really exciting. So I got the book Out of Africa and it was so boring. And so she's just like a lady named Karen who lives in Africa and has servants, and like she keeps comparing them to animals, which is like really uncomfortable. And then like the only interesting thing about her that I heard through other sources was that she had like an affair with this hot pilot, but then she doesn't mention him at all in her memoir. So I was like, boo, you didn't tell me the juice.
The juicy, spicy stuff is gone.
Yeah. And then at the end of the book, she has to leave her farm in Africa. She has to go out of Africa, hence the name. And she's like trying to decide, like she's having this like moral quandary if she should just like shoot her dogs and horses or give them away to her friends, and she can't decide.
Why is this a thing you have to question and wonder about? Oh, you know, old Yeller over here.
Oh no, not old Yeller.
I know. It was just like I couldn't believe it was one of those books where you're like, I want my life back, right? Yeah. Like I want the hours I spent waiting for this to get good because I really thought it might get good. I want those hours back.
That's
it got worse.
Yeah.
That's a question that Erin and I had. all these books, did we all finish all of them? Or is there a point that you're like, I really can't commit any more time
Where's
to
the point where you pull out that parachute and just jump out?
Today I only talked about books that I had actually finished because to truly hate something, I feel like I need to experience the whole thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
But there are a lot of books on my abandoned shelf on Goodreads that I pulled the plug on early.
Do you have a set rule for when you pull the plug, or is it just like if you just reach a point where you're like,
I used to do the Nancy Pearl rule. Are you guys familiar with that? Mm-hmm. So Nancy Pearl, a famous librarian from Seattle, would say subtract your age from the number 100, and that's how many pages of a book you should read before giving up on it.
Okay.
But as I've gotten older and older, and therefore can read fewer pages of the book, I've been like, F it, and just like thrown things across the room as soon as I decided I wasn't into them. And there's like a pretty, like, I have a good marker of when I shouldn't finish a book, which is when I will literally do anything to avoid reading. And I start to think, I hate reading, because that's not true. I know that I actually love reading. But if I keep looking at the book and being like, I would literally rather do anything than read this book, then that's like a pretty good sign that I should no longer read the book.
I'm now a do not finish reading the book if I don't like it person. I would read the whole thing. I read all of Normal People because my friends hyped it so much. But now if I don't like it, I'll just like toss it.
Well, just as it's fun to hate Ernest Hemingway, sometimes it's really fun to hate read a book.
That's true. Now I kind of want to like dive into it so that I can understand your hatred.
Yeah.
what about you?
Come to the dark side.
Julia,
I haven't since I don't know, probably high school.
what about you? When do you jump out?
Well, see, here's the thing. I have a very niche reading, I don't know.
You've got a type.
And if I'm like, let me go outside of that, it's based on vibes alone. If I start reading it and I'm like, this doesn't feel right, it's immediately gone. But I just feel like there's not enough time to read books you don't like, so just don't do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think when I was younger, like junior high in particular, I had a lot of free time to read. Like I could do a whole book in an afternoon after school got out. So it was not a big deal for me to be like, it's not a great book, I'll just finish it. Now that my time has become more precious to me, I'm much more likely to jump out of that plane and not go on that journey any longer when it starts to get to a point where like, I don't like this, I don't want to read this. I hate the person. I hate this book. Why am I doing this to myself? I don't like this feeling. I'm just going to go and read something I would actually enjoy with my limited free time.
I have had it before, though, that I start reading a book and I'm like, this is not what I want right now. And I'll come back and I'll really love it. So sometimes it is the right book. It's just the wrong time.
Yeah. Exactly.
You sometimes have to recognize.
Like last summer, Sarah Bowman, if you remember her, and Jordan all told me that they loved the book Dusty. Larry McMurtry. It's Dusty. Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. And because I hate dust and westerns, I challenged myself to read this Dusty book because I was just like in the mood for a challenge. So I started reading it, and like one of the first things that happens was that like a man put on a pair of pants, and that pair of pants was full of centipedes. Whoa. And those centipedes bit his legs and his legs fell off.
Jeff.
And so I was like, what on earth? I cannot read this dusty book full of leg-eating centipedes. But then I pictured Jeff's face in my head, and I pictured Sarah Bowman's face and Jordan's face, and I was like, well,
those are all nice.
I'm just gonna keep reading. I'm gonna give it a little more time. And I wound up loving this book. And it was just like that they put the hurdle right in front for me to get over it. And I really enjoyed the time that I spent with it. And it was such a different experience than any other book I'd ever read because I hate dust so much. Mm-hmm. So that was like a fun one. But I did have to take a few breaks from it. Like Julia said, like if there was a time when I was like feeling like stressed out about dust, I would like maybe read like a kid's graphic novel or something as like a palate cleanser and then get back to Dusty Larry.
Yeah. Wait, what was the book called?
Lonesome Dove.
See, it should be Dusty Dove, right? That's all I kept thinking it was called the whole time.
Dusty Dove Centipede Pants.
God, when you went into Centipede, that alone was like, I was like, I'm noped out of that book.
Nope.
Nope.
The only
Maybe I would like the rest, but
so gross. The only time I feel like I have to finish a book is if it's for like a book club with my friends, and sometimes I'll hate whatever they're making me read.
yeah, no.
Then sometimes I love it. So
That's a great point. Like sometimes we read stuff for like book club or whatever, and having different opposing points of view for a book club,
we are all
It's-
very
They're the most
honest.
fun.
it makes
Very
it the
fun,
best
yeah.
conversations when
Yeah.
you can go and have friendly banter back and forth about
Yes.
different parts of a book and what you liked and disliked about it. Once again, going back to different viewpoints about a book,
Yeah, it's fun.
the
The
spice
best
of life.
book club meeting I ever attended was last August for Vladimir by Julia May Jonas, because there were 35 people who came to Ferndale Project to talk about that book, and every single person had a different take on that book.
Ooh, I
And-
haven't read it.
It was so much fun.
Yes. You know what else has been so much fun?
This podcast.
This podcast has been so much fun.
So true.
I want to thank y'all for coming out and talking about books that we hate with us.
I didn't even
It was
get
a
to
good
talk
time.
about all my books. This went so
Oh my gosh!
fast.
it went
Should we
really
just
fast.
do really, really fast?
I was like,
go
who
down the
talked
list of
over?
all the books that we didn't get to talk about today that you
I
hate.
think this should be a two-parter in like 6 months.
Yeah.
I think we should come back.
Okay.
I got to talk about Matilda.
Yeah.
That's true. I had
Wait.
yes.
Wait.
Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger.
Sam and I are lunging across the table, doing like a
I don't
Homer
hear
Simpson
the buzzer
style.
though. I don't. That was so forceful. Well, you guys, I've got the ending script, so I'm gonna cut it now.
We will talk about Matilda next time.
Interesting.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I have so much time. I might write an essay about it. So
I would enjoy that.
I will write
And then I will
Rebuttal.
summarize it.
I'm gonna write a Stephen King-sized book about this.
And then I'll summarize it into 5
Julia
sentences.
didn't like this book.
Julia thought this
Book
book
is
was
called
stupid.
Matilda. I don't think it's stupid. Okay, we're cutting it now.
All right, Julia, close us out.
Thank you for listening to another episode of A Little Too Quiet, brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. Find more info about the Friends and how to support this podcast by visiting ferndalefriends. It says .o, but I think it means .org. So ferndalefriends.org if you missed that. Thank you to John Duffy for providing us theme music, and thank you to our guests, Cricket and Sam, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
You're
thank
welcome.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And don't forget to visit your local library and sign up for a library card. We'll be back next week for more about Matilda.
You will not.
It's not going to be next week. Goodbye.